You may not have lost someone, but you definitely know someone who has. Why does that affect you? So I was at the bar 2 nights ago, started a conversation with this dude, and he actually opened up with me that his girlfriend lost her mom. Maybe I think it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago, or something like that. And honestly, the first thing I thought of, and I said to him, I said, that must be hard on you. Normally, people think of the person that's grieving, which you should, of course, but the person on the other side, whether it's an intimate relationship or a friend where you didn't directly lose that person's impacted by your relationship and the way grief can affect the other person. So you may not have lost someone directly, but you know someone who has. So how does that affect our relationships? Honestly, communication challenges is one of the biggest ones for me. Even if you're in a relationship with someone where your communication is really good, the way I see it is the rhythm gets disrupted. When someone loses someone, whether it's you or the person around you, things just change. You lose your balance. And sometimes the way you feel, your mood, your depression, your anger, whatever it is you feel, makes it hard to communicate to the person that's next to you, whether it be your lover or a friend. So it's important to try to find that rhythm. And the question is, how do you find that rhythm? How do you get back to the communication levels that you were at? And how do you improve upon it during your grief process? One of the ways to detect that I've heard from the stories I've had on my podcast seems to be the distance between one and the other person. I think it's pretty obvious when you're with your partner or with someone you know really well when things are off. So I think that's kind of an antenna that goes off and knowing something's off. And sometimes that means distance. Sometimes that means the person who's grieving will separate themselves from you. Maybe they don't feel like you can relate in this situation, and for whatever reason, they don't want to talk to you. So one way to go around that, in my opinion, is to simply be there for them and listen. I think listening is a proper way to do it. Notify them that you're here for them. And you can even ask them, as the other person that's indirectly grieving, what can I do for you? What do you need from me? So maybe take that proactive approach to recognize the quote unquote problem, offer that you do feel the difference and the distance between each other, and just ask them, what can I do for you to get us back to where we were? When someone you know that's grieving, everything shook up. Literally everything is just different. That person might be a different person. Their personality might change, at least for the time being. They might be more sad, most likely. They might be angry. They might be resentful. I think from the person that's outside looking in, again, whether you're a partner or just a good friend that's trying to be supportive, you got to give them a little bit of grace. Try not to take it personally. This person that's grieving is going through a lot, and give yourself some grace at the same time, because you are going through a lot too, being so close to the person grieving. And to me, that's something that's not talked about a lot, is the person that is indirectly next to the person that's grieving, is how do you orchestrate that? How do you continue on? And in regards to that process, I think you got to give each other grace, not take it personal, and also try to find, again, that rhythm of communication to express to each other how you feel. And sometimes it takes a balancing act of giving it time, allowing the emotions to go through, allowing them to flow, allowing that person to go through the motions of emotion just so they can get to the other side. And sometimes that takes time. And with that time, it might be a little easier to communicate. Falling out of love, that seems to be a reality of when you go through traumatic situations. I've seen it often and time again. I don't have an answer for that. I honestly don't have the best advice that I can give you to get through that or to acknowledge something like that. It's just something that I think inherently goes with the individual. I think it goes with any relationships. In my humble, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about opinion, is that whenever there's a problem, especially with falling out of love, and that wasn't there prior to the grief, prior to the loss, that loss and grief catapulted you into this scenario where maybe you're falling out of love. It's an individual thing, in my opinion. I think each person on both sides need to dig deep and find the healing within themselves, because ultimately, if you can't feel good about yourself and be healed on a personal level, how are you going to give love out? And how are you going to be the person you were before that? And also a big key to that too, is that when you find yourself in that difficult, combative state where maybe your relationship isn't what it used to be, do your best for once to go back in the past and remember why you were together in the first place. Go back to that original day one, those times where you were in love, the time when you looked in each other's eyes and realized, okay, this is the person I want to be with for the rest of my life. So if we're talking intimately, go back to the times where you were in love and things were good and remember why you were both together in the first place. This may be a weird example, but you ever relate a song to someone? I know that's pretty common, a song that you used to share. And then if you lose someone in your life, whether it be a biological death or a breakup, that song doesn't sound as appealing anymore. It becomes really sad. Well, I think that relates to when you have a difficult relationship, when you're going through trauma and you're not connecting as well. That song is still the same. You're still singing the same lyrics. You're still hearing the same melody and all that, but the perspective of it shifted. So I think it's important sometimes So when you hear the lyrics of Grief or the lyrics of this song that now sounds different, is to go back to the original meaning, because all that shifted was the perspective. Like it's like a poem. You're reading a poem, it gives you different meaning, and we're in different moods. You read it and interpret it in a different way. So try to go back again to the past of that meaning you initially gave it, and maybe just shift the perspective. Because at the end of the day, grief, trauma, whatever it is we're going through is simply perspective. And perspective shifts due to life and when things happen. So I think it's important to you to go back to that song that you once fell in love with and try to understand why. Why did you love that song? Because it had this meaning. And why does it have this meaning now? Clearly because something went down, but it's not too late to bring it back to the original lyrics that it gave you.